I request Professor Dayanand Bhargava to respond.
Mr. Chairman, sir, whatever has been said so far is corroborated by history. Bhishma in the Mahabharata said that a person is the slave of money, but money is the slave of none. That was his statement 5,000 years back. And I suppose that that still holds true even today. We are all slaves of wealth, and wealth is slave of none. That is to say, we become a means to money rather than using money as a means for human welfare. That to my mind appears to be the crux of the problem. And what happened in the Mahabharata is clear to us. And again, I am afraid the Mahabharata may be repeated any time in the form of a Third World War. If we become slave of property possessions. As far as Acharya Mahapragya's contribution goes, in the field of religion and in the field of Indian philosophy, there are no inventions, there are only discoveries. Old truths are discovered, not that new truths are invented. That is the basic thing. And therefore, what Acharya Mahapragya is saying is as old as human thought. But the credit of presenting it in the modern context goes to him. He has used the modern medium, the modern context, and therefore that credit goes to him. And we are here in a way to supplement how those basic truths which have been repeated so many times can be interpreted in a way that they become attractive for modern mind. One is attracted towards those values about which I shall be talking tomorrow, if a chance is given to me. And I have one suggestion, sir, to make. Our chairman, Professor Gandhi, referred to the book Small is Beautiful by Shoemaker. When we work on Acharya Mahapragya's scheme of economics of non-violence, I would request the economists to corroborate what he has said by facts and figures also. Can we take up a project where we study, if not world economics, the economics of this country, and find out how, if non-violence is given a place in the scheme of economics, it will not only be a spiritual attainment and a spiritual achievement, but in the mundane sense of the word also, it shall be more beneficial to mankind. That is to be done. Because I am afraid economics is a secular science. And we cannot say that if we observe non-violence, such and such spiritual merits will incur. That will not suffice. We have to prove that there will be worldly achievements, worldly goods also. And I am sure that if we follow economics of non-violence, it will not only be a religious achievement or a spiritual achievement, it will be a mundane achievement also. Because after all, economics or anything for that matter must aim at the welfare of mankind. And violence, it is very obvious, does not contribute towards welfare of mankind. There is no dispute about it. Therefore, violence somehow or the other has to be eliminated, if not fully, to some extent. Then that we do not become cruel to the poor, cruel to the oppressed. That part of it is to be seen. It is so clear to it. Wherefore I shall conclude with another remark of Ved Vyas. And he said that I am saying it, maybe that what Ved Vyas said may be put in the mouth of Acharya Mahapragya also. He says, Urva Bahur Viromnesha, with my both hands upwards, I declare Dharmad Arthashta Kamashta Sadharma Kimna Siddhate. If you observe moral rules, worldly pleasure will also come to you, but nobody listens to you. That is what he declared. Let us think over it. Not about spirituality or the other world or religious things. But this worldly welfare, this welfare of mankind in the mundane sense of the term, can it be there without certain principles of morality being observed? If we can prove it, not only by preaching certain principles, they are also necessary, but by facts and figures of the present day economy, I suppose it will be a good contribution. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Joshi.
Significant point when he says that time has come to speak in terms of spiritualizing economics as well. Because talking about moral transformation is okay. Talking about bringing about a spiritual revolution is okay. And the presentations which were made by Professor Nathuram and Professor Lewis, I think somehow they miss a point, because whatever change that you are seeking to bring about on the planet Earth shall not be attaining its heights and shall not be realized until unless you develop a mechanism. Whether you speak in terms of autonomy of individual or institutions, or whether you speak in terms of equanimity or equality or decentralized polity or decentralized governance, the question is, from where do we begin? And the point that is missing is that education, or what I would call spiritualizing the society through education, is a great task. Even economics cannot be spared on this ground, because education alone seems to be the viable media which is not being talked about. And primarily at the grassroots level, you have to think in terms of a spiritual cultural revolution. All ethical discussions, all discussions on cultural values shall ultimately lead us nowhere, unless until they are accompanied by the force of educational enlightenment. What we are missing in the world today is that we have a lot of education. We have made progress on different frontiers in science and technology. But the right kind of education, which is the enlightenment, has not come about. And all of us, through computers, if you are trying to teach morality, it may look good. But the question is, when it comes to practice, we are really not doing anything worthwhile at that level. So friends, talking about economics of production or limiting our desires or limiting consumption is okay. But how do you do it? Ultimately, there has to be, and education alone seems to be a viable mechanism to bring about that transformation. Thank you.